Hello. Welcome to Car Expert YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. This F-Type is only the second full production effort from Jaguar Land Rover's SVO, the first being the Range Rover Sport SVR, and so it's also the first Jaguar SVR ever. Whereas that Range Rover combines quickness with surprising cross-country abilities, the F-Type SVR has a singular mission: go faster. And so, with the tweak of the electronic limiter and some other fiddling, voila, suddenly the coupe can reach a top speed of 200 miles per hour. The convertible is not far behind at 195. Although there aren't many places in the world where you'll actually want to probe those max velocities, the engine's 575 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque are plenty to risk your license. The SVR adopts many of the engine improvements that hoisted the Project 7 to the same power level, but bests that very special car's torque figure thanks mostly to new intercoolers. Remember, the regular F-Type R is only good for 550 horsepower. Only. What the world we live in. Aside from the added power, this is much more of a range-topping special trim than it is a significantly different model. Like the R, the SVR comes only with all-wheel drive and an 8-speed automatic transmission. Operating it in manual mode is more pleasant, in part because the paddle shifters behind the wheel are made out of aluminum instead of plastic like on other automatic F-Types. They feel nice, and the transmission shifts quickly and authoritatively, the generous torque spread helping if you're a gear higher than would be ideal. If companies keep calibrating automatics like this, manual transmission enthusiasts will find less and less to grumble about. Hours away from that tunnel in Monterey, hilly country offered a more neutral soundstage on which to evaluate the car's charms. Long straights and tight wood-lined sections revealed that the free-breathing pipes produce a rawer and flatter note than the R's exhaust. It's still pleasant, but the active exhaust valves don't quite let out enough rumble at idle. If you're paying for the most special F-Type around, you'd probably like to be reminded of it all the time. Ditch the fancy titanium valves and let the cat breathe free, I say. At least the thin-walled piping is good for a 35-pound weight savings. Jaguar retuned the suspension for the SVR compared to the plain R. The front sway bar is thinner, the rear is thicker, and both the valving inside the continuously variable dampers and the software that controls them have been altered. Suspension response is stiff but not punishing, and a pleasant reminder that you're in something purposeful and special. But in dynamic mode, the electric assist power steering calibration and the wider Pirelli P0 tires make the car seem much dartier than it actually is. Rough patches are amplified through the steering wheel even when the Jaguar isn't bent out of shape. Turning off dynamic mode preserved all of the directness and accuracy, but quelled some of the frantic sawing at the wheel while also making the ride mellower. Maybe dynamic mode's unnaturally hyperactive steering feedback works better on the track, but it's best switched off when driving enthusiastically on country roads. In the midst of wrestling with the wheel, there were a few occasions when I overcooked it into a corner. Instead of scrubbing off speed, the SVR's electronics stepped in, and it felt a bit like some powerful unseen force was yanking the front end around. There are actually several unseen forces: the all-wheel drive system, electronic rear differential, and brake-based torque vectoring system on the rear axle all work hard to slingshot you from one corner to the next. The SVR still doesn't feel like a true rear-drive car, even with the 90% rear torque bias in normal situations. Turn-in is sharp in dynamic mode, but there's no denying that torque is being sent forward to give the front end a tug. To be fair to the SVR, it dealt with some ham-fisted driving on imperfect pavement without swapping ends, which is pretty nice behavior for a 575 horsepower car that can hit 200 miles per hour. The SVR's interior feels distinctly special. I was drawn to the striking red leather interior of several of the SVRs Jaguar brought to Monterey, and particularly like the quilted stitching pattern. The coupe's headliner is faux suede, which looked classy, and the same material covers the gauge hood and part of the dash top. A ghosted SVR logo, one of the car's few subtle touches, has been applied to the carbon fiber piece above the center display. It all manages to avoid garishness. Think about the F-Type SVR without the competitive set in mind for a second. For Jaguar, this car simply makes sense. Some buyers always want the most special version of a special car. The SVR starts at double the price of a V6 rear-drive F-Type, so mark that down in the specialness column. It looks different enough to seem special to the uninitiated and really special to those in the know. If the looks don't do it, just stand near a tunnel when the SVR is spitting and crackling like a wet log. It's also fast, breathtakingly so, the fastest and most powerful full production road car the company has ever made. And if you love Jaguars, that makes this the top cat and a definite future collectible. Maybe one day, the booming snaps heard round Monterey will come from a well-preserved F-Type SVR heading to the Concord lawn for judging.